There's a common complaint from maybe the young Filipino or the Filipino American that their parents don't respect maybe what they want to become as children, as a professional, but rather they want them to be doctors, nurses, lawyers, or other said professionals. Why is that? Um, Let me give you my thoughts around this. So, if you have not been raised in the Philippines or you have not traveled enough and not experienced or at least witnessed very poor countries, not to say that there aren't affluent Filipinos because there's lots of them. And that's why mainly there is that sandwich of the masa in the Philippines, right? And then there's the very rich, and then you also have the very poor. Now, when you have been exposed, you would know the Filipino, talking from that context, know that poverty can mean that you have no voice or less voice, no option or less option. And sometimes people would say, kasi mahirap lang kami, so you have less control is the notion if you are underprivileged or if you are in poverty. Now, in the Philippines, in general, there is this class system. So it's based on the class. So there's class A, B, C, D, E, and that depends on the socioeconomic status. And for now, that's embedded in the Filipino psyche. So we might even say, someone might say, ay, mukhang mayaman. Okay. Or mukhang mahirap. Obviously, those are social contexts. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically we made that up based on the context of what we find to be appealing or what looks rich. And what looks rich in one context is not always the same. It's in another culture. So it's a social context. Now, the Filipino parent understand the pain of being in poverty. So imagine not having voice, not a lot of options. And, growing up, being born and raised in the Philippines, one of the noble things that some people might do if they're very responsible parents is to work very hard. And even if they're not very rich, they'll work very hard to send their children to the good schools. What you buy into that is really the mindset of abundance and wealth. And when I say that, I'm not always talking about money. You could have lots of money. And as the research one time in the Philippines goes, where they did followed somebody who won the lottery, and it's almost like a reality show. See if you could still find that show. But the research is based on you could have so much money, but if you don't know how to manage it, such as the winner of the lottery, and he was a poor man, he was not able to keep it. He was just using all his money, not managing it well for not having the skill to do so. So, when the Filipino parent wants you to be a doctor, be a lawyer, it almost seemed like it's an infringement on your freedom, your choice. And if you were born, especially or raised in the Western world, Canada, if you are in America, the Philippine Americans don't appreciate that because they want to do what they want to do or love to do. And that's one main difference. But let me go back. They want you to be a certain way because it's buying privilege. In today's world, that word has a very negative connotation. Just know if you know history, words do evolve. And that's not a bad word. In fact, Filipinos who have at least witnessed poverty and don't want their children to be in poverty because of the consequences of poverty, they will do their best to buy privilege. And that means they work hard, they expect actually a lot from their children. Of course, there's a thing as over expectation, but we'll talk about that at a later video. But for them, buying privilege, and there's no other way to climb up than to be able to afford skills, mastery of a particular skill. One way, okay, I'm not saying that's the only way. And so for them, that privilege buys freedom. On the other hand, the fundamental difference, right? If you were born in the West, or at least absorbed the value system in the West, is that it is doing what you love, right? There goes the tension in the Filipino family. The young wants to do what they love, and the Filipino parent is saying, do or love what you do. And you could just understand from their context, even if they're already in America, in UK, wherever you are, and there's many options there, their mindset is that understanding poverty, even if they weren't poor, but the concept of it, of having witnessed it, and not having a lot of options. When you don't have a lot of options, whatever's given to you, you love it, rather than when you are in a country, in a social place where there's so many options, then you can say, right, do what you love versus love what you do. It's a very fundamental experience. When you take it personally, it feels personal, of course, and I understand. Reason why I'm sharing this video is because we want a wider context. And as you know, I am a psychotherapist, but also a student of anthropology. And so the goal is not to choose. The goal is to understand that parents, elders might feel that they are forcing you uh, in a certain direction. But for them, that actually leads to freedom. And the actual act might feel like an infringement in that moment for you on your freedom. So just understanding that there's a difference, even them understanding that it feels that way for you in the moment, but eventually from more of a sustaining long term, um, long term, so more from a sustaining long term hope is the permanence of success and freedom. Of course, you might say, yeah, I don't want to be a doctor because I just want to be an artist. I think that's great. And the conflict comes from when we misunderstand each other's intention. So the goal is just to understand each other's um, intention and hope and longing. And I hope that's been helpful to you. This is Roanne Samuels. By the way, I moved my website to another platform. I invite you to help me out because I have lots of people visiting my blog. But since I moved, please come visit so that I don't know, the cloud knows that the website it exists. I'll link it below. It's www.calamansijuice.com. Maraming pong salamat at ingat!